Well, here we are. Big one in Iowa City on Saturday. Oregon comes into Kinnick Stadium for a 2:30 kick, primetime CBS. Going to be a great one. One of the best games here in the Big Ten to this point in the season. Amped up on both sides of the football. Cannot wait to get to Saturday to watch this one. Oregon fans, welcome in. If you're watching this, Iowa fans, welcome in. Let's have an awesome show, an awesome preview. We'll jump into that right after this intro here. I'm fired up. This is going to be fun. Welcome into the Iowa Fan Perspective here on the Play the Fight Song YouTube channel, as well as other places on our podcast feed, Spotify, Apple Music. Thank you guys for joining in. It's going to be a good one. Going to be an exciting one. Super happy to have everyone here. If you haven't had the chance to view any of our stuff, we are Play the Fight Song college football show. We do a weekly show covering all 136 throughout the country. Live shows Wednesday night, 7:30 p.m. Central Time. It's a blast. We're having a ton of fun growing as we kind of continue through this college football season. It's been a ton of fun, giving us endless things to talk about. But we do Iowa State, Nebraska fan perspectives. Basically, the whole idea here is we're not insiders. We're not people that are going to sit on a chalkboard and write everything out for you as far as X's and O's go. But we are fans that pay a lot of attention to these programs. You know, we have our opinions, we have our thoughts, and that's kind of what this outlet is. On these previews for each week, we're going to dive into the opponent. We're going to talk about the game. We're going to talk about what, in this case, Oregon really brings to the table, some personnel, what they like to do, expectations when you're playing a team like Oregon. And we go through that, and we want both sides of the opinion. We want the Iowa opinion. We want the Oregon opinion as well. And it makes it fun. It makes it interesting. You're not just coming to another show hearing some opinions and people throwing things at walls. We want to kind of talk through the team and preview it that way. And then I'll give you my thoughts and I'll do a prediction at the end of everything. But how this usually runs down is I'll kind of give a little background on it. We'll do the offensive side of Oregon. We'll do the defensive side. Then we'll go into the prediction. So it's a ton of fun, having a ton of fun doing these. And if you haven't had the chance, subscribe now. Hit the like button on this. Check us out on YouTube, X, TikTok, Instagram, everywhere you get any of your social media content at Play the Fight Pod. Check us out there. We continue to grow, and we're marching towards 2,000 subscribers, and we'd love to get there before the end of the season. So thank you guys for joining in either side here. So let's kind of get into this, right? Set the stage, right? We got Oregon, Iowa, 2:30 CBS. Going to be a madhouse. Going to be a ton of fun. Second time in 2 games for the Hawks that CBS will be in town at 2:30 in this time slot. The last one being the Minnesota game a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, Oregon and Iowa both coming off buys, which kind of beats the purpose of, one team's off a bye, a little more rested. You're going to get both teams' best punch. Like, you are going to get the best version of both these football teams, and I think that's pretty clear and obvious, especially when you talk about a Ferentz team that traditionally has a very good game plan in games like this, and knowing that they need to, how they need to handle and play this football game. And then you go to the other side, and Dan Lanning, and a guy who honestly motivates people more. He has more talent in motivating people and taking anything off the wall and really getting his team to a place where they're ready to go and not too emotionally charged up where they're losing it, but just ready to go, reared back, ready to do anything they can to help their football team win. Two great coaches in the sport. I honestly believe that 2 of the better ones within all of it. It's going to be an awesome atmosphere. Oregon fans, if you've never been to Kinnick Stadium or into Iowa City, I can imagine most of you have, just with, first time being there as a Big Ten member. I know we'll get into that here in a little bit, but Oregon's has been in Kinnick before. It's a ton of fun taking the atmosphere. It's going to be so much fun, and hopefully everybody treats you awesome. I know all my Iowa brethren out there will definitely welcome you into a tailgate, offer you a Busch Light here in the Midwest, and should be a ton of fun. So check that out. High of 50. Looks like a pretty good rain chance here for the 2:30 kick. And it's going to be one of the best games of the Saturday. There's no ands, if, buts, or maybes about that one. Obviously, we don't know if both teams these will be ranked at this point. I'm recording this on a Monday evening. And my guess is if Iowa's ranked, it's from 22 to 25 in the college football playoff rankings. Oregon will still be in that top 10 range, possibly top 6, top 7 in that situation. So we're not really sure there. We don't know if it's a ranked on ranked matchup. But if it's not, it doesn't change this game in the slightest, right? You got Iowa that needs the win to keep playoff hopes alive. You need Oregon, who needs the win to kind of solidify themselves as the top tier in the Big Ten and continue to push to, be a really high seed and have a playoff game in Austin. Like, that would be an absolute riot later in the year. Obviously, the loss to Indiana for both these teams changes things significantly in the Big Ten race. This would be, if Iowa were to win Oregon's second loss in the Big Ten, that'd be the same thing for Iowa here. Both teams, one-loss Big Ten teams, both to the Indiana Hoosiers. It's a really good football team in Indiana. I think that still feels like it's a little undervalued. I understand that they're ranked pretty darn high. They might be ranked 1 in that playoff ranking system, but I think that team is so damn good, and both these teams played them really well. I just think that's the reality of the situation. Is it's not a bad loss and not one that you obviously both teams feel like they had shots to win that one, but man, it's just the reality of college football right now. Indiana's really, really, really good, and then Ohio State right behind them or right above them. As Play the Fight Song has, it's Ohio State, Indiana 1-2 in our playoff rankings here as we head into the first football games. Both these teams have played in a couple weeks, so going to be a ton of fun. Let's jump into a little bit of series history. Only 3 meetings, not a ton of meetings and not a lot of history between these two. 1-2, Oregon leads this series all time, 1949 being the only Iowa win, 89 and 94, both Oregon wins pretty handily, I might add. 1 in Eugene, 1 in Kinnick. Those, there's, like they said, there's not a lot of history there. What I can tell you is that making this graphic to kind of sit over here with me was a ton of fun. Shout out to our branding guy and our host of Play the Fight Song, Parks. Does awesome with our graphics, the throwback Iowa and Oregon lids. And then we have 2 of the better retro logos in the sport. I mean, both fan bases can agree on that. So I just want to say, like, going into this, like, this is obviously going to be a team that we probably play once every 3 years, something like that. It's not going to be a ton of time. I'd be pumped to have a chance to go into Eugene and see Autzen and get that atmosphere, but Oregon will get their chance to be in Kinnick for the first time in a long time, in over 30-some years. So should be a ton of fun that way. But let's kind of get things started with the man at the helm, guy running the show. This is arguably one of the better coaches in college football right now. He's done an unreal job at Oregon, really leans into what his team is, really leans into what the culture at Oregon is, understanding who they are, what they do really well. And he fits kind of what they were beforehand offensively. They haven't changed the high flying, very athletic, very talented guys on the outside, but they've gotten a lot more physical. They've gotten a lot better at playing teams in the trenches than they were prior to his arrival. And that was a big key for him. When he came in there, that was a point of emphasis, and it's been an accomplishment. 42-7 overall through 3.5 years in Eugene. Big Ten champions a season ago. Obviously, got into the playoff and played a buzzsaw in Ohio State. And then this guy he's had success with quarterbacks. I wanted to note this. Bo Nix, as a Bronco fan, I can appreciate that one. Dylan Gabriel was there for a year, and now you got Dante Moore, who feels like he'll be a multi-year starter at the University of Oregon and has been really, really, really good for them. Really good for them. What do you need to know about Oregon, right? They're physical. They play really good defense, and there is playmakers quite literally all over the field. They are littered with talent, whether that's at the receiver position, along the offensive, defensive lines, at the quarterback position, and a really good young secondary that is one of the better ones in the country. And this guy is just awesome. I think he's a ton of fun to watch coach. I think it'd be he kind of is who he is. You have to be a little bit of a psycho to be a college football coach. That's just we're being honest about everything, right? Like, Ferentz might be an exception, but he's a little psycho because it takes a lot to be a college football coach. You have to manage so many things at this high of a level, and this guy's one of the best at it in the country. Just want to say, like, I think there is a little bit of stuff floating out there, but like Phil Parker just saying it's well funded. If you guys think Phil Parker's malicious, it doesn't really matter because Oregon's going to take and use his bulletin board material. But Phil Parker just saying stuff. That's just how it is. They're really talented. They're talented even when they weren't really well funded and using the portal the way they are. But the success of high school recruiting has also been great for them. So again, I'm sure if this goes sideways for Iowa, they'll end up on a post game video of Phil Parker saying that, or that already was probably used in some meetings with Dan Lanning. He'll find literally anything in the world. Like if you stepped on a crack on the sidewalk, this guy would find a way to spin it into making you the bad guy for his football team to go beat you on a Saturday. That's just the honesty of it all. So ton of fun watching him coach. Love having him in the Big Ten. Would love to keep him in the Big Ten. Just kind of make it more coast to coast as the ever-changing landscape of college football continues to evolve here. So shout out to Dan Lanning and just kind of what he's done at that school. Let's start on the offense. This is a ton of fun to put together and go through, right? 41.3 points per game, 6.3 yards a rush, 7.4 yards per play. You can see where those rank within the country. I'll say a couple things in the fact that it is an offense that has been successful in a lot of ways. You look at the first half at Penn State, they were really successful in running the football. Second half, it kind of slowed down, but they made the plays when they needed to. They use a lot of running backs through some things. And I would say they've all been really good, different skill sets, but still all really talented young players. And you find a way to run the football in different ways. This is not an Iowa one where you're thinking, they're just going to sit there and kind of run some zone schemes and sit and get off tackle and really stretch things out. That's Iowa's bread and butter. But Oregon can run the football between the tackles as well. Like still very good at it. Obviously, you see that was 6.3 yards a rush. They are very physical. This is a run game that will get on you quick. It kind of starts with Noah Whittington. That's a guy there. And then the bigger running back, I think, is he's going to be a real problem here in the coming years, a freshman, Jordan Davison. Both of them over 350 yards rushing. Davison with 10 touchdowns. He's a bigger guy. And so he does get a little bit of a different carry more so between the tackles where Whittington can kind of get out in space and make a lot of plays. Jane Lamar's also been really good for them. He's got 3 touchdowns of them, all of them averaging over 5.5 yards a carry, and Whittington over 8.5, and Davison near 7. So Iowa's going to have to find a way to really slow this run game down, because what Indiana was able to do, and you can take away the sack yardage. I think that's fair in college football. Like take away the sack yardage when Dante Moore went down. They were over 100 yards rushing, but it was not a consistent 5 yards a rush. It was a lot less. I think it was around like 3.5, 3.7. If I'm wrong on that, call me out in the comments. I get it. But it was not a gashing attack like you'd seen against other teams. And that's a formula for Iowa. Iowa's a really good run defense. You're going to have to find a way to slow them down. You're going to have to find to keep the explosives on the ground like obsolete in this situation. And you're going to have to find a way to make sure Dante Moore's feeling some pressure. That's just the honesty of it. He's a young quarterback, a very talented quarterback at that. And he's made a lot of really good throws throughout the year. But Iowa's kind of turned up the pressure a little bit. For Oregon fans, this is not a traditionally blitzing and attacking Iowa defense with Phil Parker. They've done that this year. They got after Mendoza. They went and got after Drake Lindsey in Minnesota. Like they are blitzing guys and bringing heat, and they're getting home more often than not. And so that's something to pay attention to. But do they do that here again, or they try to keep Dante Moore in the pocket and make him make plays through the air? Because if he does, it's 8.9 yards an attempt. And then they also find a really good way to beat you over the top. They're going to hit a couple. That's just the reality of the situation. Felt like Indiana was the same situation where you looked and you were like, Indiana's going to get a couple big ones. It's just how do you keep those maybe behind the 40? We're not sitting in the plus territory and they get a 45, 50-yard touchdown. Maybe it's a 40, 30-yard pass from the 20 to midfield, and we hold them to 3 anyway. Those are something you'll have to pay attention to. Very, very, very good at converting on third down. This is something I wanted to highlight because if you go back to the Iowa game or the Iowa-Indiana game, a lot of chances to get Indiana off the field on third down. We had a couple big 4th down stops, I understand that, but we were 3rd and 4+ a lot where missed tackles kind of made things hard. And that just can't happen in this one as much. You're going to have to really be much better in tackling and get off the field on third down, as Oregon is really good at keeping drives alive. Let's start with the guy under center. Dante Moore, man, 19 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, about 72% completion percentage. Been really good in his first full year as the Oregon starter. You need to kind of see this guy get out of the pocket and make plays. It's not just sit there and, throw it around the yard, wide open guys, where in a lot of college football schemes, that's kind of what they do. That's the plan, right? We scheme guys wide open. Tennessee's really known for that. When they're humming, their guys are schemed open. Ohio State's really good at it. That doesn't mean the quarterbacks aren't talented. Dante Moore can make the throws. He has the guys to throw the football to as well. So pay attention to that. He also runs the ball well. When he gets out of the pocket, he'll make his own plays. Less design stuff than I think we'd see from Gronowski and obviously the Iowa offense. Different skill sets, but a really, really good athlete. Really, really good athlete. So that guy is going to be a problem, one to watch, and obviously one to pay attention to throughout the entire day Saturday. Going to the next spot, DeCorian Moore. Man, just athletes everywhere on this Oregon offense. And to be honest with you, the receiver room has a lot of them, and I couldn't fit them all on here. And the pass catcher just unit as in general. But wanted to highlight this guy because I think it's going to be a matchup problem for just about anybody who plays him. So this might be a TJ Hall assignment. It might be a sprinkled into Sean Lee assignment. They'll move him around the field. He's not going to sit in one spot and make it easy for Iowa to identify what he's doing and where he is. But it is something where that he's going to have a chance to have a big day any day he steps on the field. So 3 touchdowns at this point, almost 16 yards a catch, 443 yards on the season. Also, Gary Bryant Jr., we just want to highlight. I didn't have a picture of him with DeCorian, but that's got 24 receptions, 4 touchdowns. Really good receiver room and pass catching team. And this is the one I really wanted to talk about for a little bit. Kenyon Sadiq is one of the best tight ends in the country. There's not really a conversation to be had about it. He's going to be possibly the Mackey Award winner. Kind of depends on what happens throughout the rest of the country, but I do think he'll be in that conversation the entire year. 14.1 average, 5 touchdowns, 311 yards. Kid's talented. He's a matchup problem. And I wanted to highlight this for a couple of reasons, because when he's on the field and he splits out and makes plays, you're going to have to roll a Lutmer or an Entringer or somebody on him because he's going to outrun a linebacker. He's big enough to beat DBs, and it's a little bit of a problem. And so I think that's something that you'll see with Iowa and what their plan is. I talked about this with Daniel House when I was talking about Minnesota, and they had a guy in Gears who didn't end up getting the run, but he's a matchup problem. That Sadiq is another level. So we're going to have to find a way to neutralize that and who it is that's covering him in those situations. And they're going to find ways to get him the football, but really good blocker, really good playmaker, really good football player just in general. So Kenyon Sadiq is definitely one to pay attention there. And when you kind of look at what, I just want to highlight a couple more guys here as we roll through. There's a lot on this offense that can beat you. It's tempo can beat you. It's running between the tackles they're really good at. They make a lot of plays downfield in the passing game, scheme guys open. And that's why Will Stein's on a lot of name boards just with the coaching searches out throughout the country. Like whether that's, him staying in Oregon as an OC or trying to get a head coaching job somewhere. Maybe he doesn't want to. I don't know. But this offense is a big reason, that Oregon is as good as they are. Like, I think the defense is good, but with what offense Oregon has in this situation, it is concerning if you are playing them and you're only focused about, we have to keep up scoring. And then they got a really good defense. Or we got to, we have to score on them to stay in this. And then they just keep rolling out this unit on the offense that is very talented throughout everything. So keys for Iowa here, man. I think if you're going to look at what Iowa is and what their plan is, you need to see it's tackling an open field space. We have to be really good tacklers at the corner position, get off the field on third down, and limit the run game. Indiana did it. It was to their success. In the second half, Penn State was able to limit the run game a little bit more for Oregon. That's how they got back in that football game. Also, if you guys notice, we share a lot of opponents. We've all both played Indiana, both played Oregon, both played Wisconsin. I think we'll both have USC on the schedule. It's one of those where some of them I feel like I can take a little bit away. Like Indiana would be one I feel like I could take stuff away from. And Penn State, obviously we're getting 2 different Penn State teams with no James Franklin and Kinnick, but that's a Penn State team that came ready to play in Kinnick. So I'm going to take that for what it is. Iowa played well in it, came back from an 11-point deficit. Not something traditionally we do. So we are going to be happy about that one. So don't let the narrative bite you there. But that's kind of how I feel on that stuff. Again, keys. We got to tackle in space, slow the run game, and find a way to kind of get some pressure on Dante Moore in that situation. Because I do think that there's a chance that Iowa can capitalize on some things. If they can make sure there's not a consistent drive, consistently going 65, 70 yards, and getting them off the field early, it's huge. It's huge there. Before we go into the Oregon defense, let's talk about our partners over at No Rivals. No Rivals, shopnorivals.com. Go find your hat. I got, brand new Iowa one, actually. Big fan of the baseball style Hawkeye here. I have the golf one here in the example. Use code PTFS for free shipping. Oregon fans, go on there. You can request a team. Just type in you want the Oregon Ducks. They'll put it through. They'll see that, and they're going to be working on it here shortly, I'm sure. But there are a ton of hats out there. If you're looking for a hat just to have a good time with, I own a couple different schools. I got a Montana one. That one's awesome. If you're just looking for one of the best hats in collegiate sports, you need to shop No Rivals and use code PTFS at checkout for free shipping and let them know we sent you. Thank you to our partners over at No Rivals. Well, let's flip things here as I kind of work through my notes, and let's go into the defense. This is one of the Big Ten's best units. I don't think there's any real argument about that and who they are. 13.5 points per game, only giving up 3.3 yards a rush, 4 yards a play, 13 total sacks on the year, which doesn't blow you away, but I'll get to that here in not too distant future. And it's just, to me, the key difference in a team in Oregon, what they were under Cristobal, under Helfrich, other guys, like even the Kelly teams. This Lanning version of Oregon is really good defensively and very, very, very physical. They will get after you on the front. Really good defensive line. Will highlight some guys. The linebacking room is really good and really good young secondary pieces. So what do you do if you're Iowa to find a way to win this one? Obviously, Iowa's going to run the football. That's what they're going to try and do. They're going to stay with it, even if it's not working, to find a way to lean on you as the game goes. Iowa offensive line versus the front of Oregon will tell you the entire story Saturday. And I will flip that and say the same thing for the Iowa defense versus the Oregon offense. It is the run game that will tell the story in Kinnick on Saturday. It is that simple. And that sounds cliche. It's boring. There's nothing really highlighting it. But you can't tell me that one of these teams is going to, run the football for less than 60, 70 yards and be the obvious one to win a football game. That's just not really how I feel about this at all. And I don't think anybody across the country does. When you look at what Oregon does really well, one of the nation's best secondaries, that is something that is a concern because Iowa's had situations where a receiver drops, like the Gronowski pick a couple weeks ago, and a Hank Brown one in the Indiana game. Just weird stuff happening. Balls off chest, balls off hands, end up in the defender's hands, and now we're dealing with interceptions. Running routes short to the stick has been a concern. Just key separation that isn't schemed hasn't been Iowa's strength in the receiver room. This has been the strength of the Oregon team, whether that was Indiana that came in there where they played Penn State or anybody else. They are really good. So you have to find a way to do that. On the defensive side, on like the front, I think Iowa has a really good stable of running backs. I think that's underrated within the Big Ten. One of the best offensive lines in the country. 3.3 yards per carry will not win you a football game this one. This needs to be above 5, in my opinion. Very hard to do. Possible to do, though. So we get above 5 yards a carry, find your way through everything, and really make it so Gronowski's not feeling like he needs to make 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 throws. 3rd and 2, maybe. 3rd and 3, maybe. Hell, I'll throw a 3rd and 4 in there every once in a while. But you have to find a way to consistently stay in the run game and stay positive and above the chains. So staying here on the Oregon defense, I do want to highlight here, Bryce Betcher is one of the best linebackers in the country. This is a guy who's two-sport athlete at Oregon, obviously does the baseball side of things, which I can respect because I'm a baseball guy through and through. And then you take what he's done, 63 tackles, an INT, and a forced fumble. He leads this defense. He is the leader of this defense. He is the guy that sits in the middle and flies around and makes plays and does not miss tackles. So that's something to pay attention to. I was going to have to find a way to get into the second level and make him miss or get him blocked, one of the two. Two really good pieces, I think, in the pass rush, and it's going to be really hard. I really want to try and get as many names as possible in this Oregon or defense highlighted, but it may not be possible. There's too many. So we're going to start with Mateo Uiagalelei and then Tatum Tuioti. I just want to make sure I hit that on the nose. It's hard pronunciation. Please go crazy out there. But if you're listening to this and you work at a Big Ten school, just put the pronunciation of the kid saying his name on your website. I appreciate it. Iowa and Minnesota both do that. Tatum Tuioti. These are two of the best in the pass rush game. Tuioti with 3.5 sacks. Uiagalelei with 4. Both of them 5 yards or 5 TFLs. The other 8.5 TFLs. The numbers may not jump out to you, and I said I was going to get back to this. 13 sacks, you're like, oh, that's not bad. That's pretty good. The sacks don't tell the story here. They get after the quarterback. They've played a couple quarterbacks here that gotten out of the pocket well and made plays and made sure they weren't taking sacks. Gronowski's got one of those guys who's pretty good at that sort of thing. They make you uncomfortable. There is going to be pressure in Gronowski's face. They don't necessarily have to bring 5 or 6. They can do it with 3 or 4 a lot of the times. There are other pieces on this defensive line. And Barry Alexander in the middle isn't going to get after you consistently from a defensive tackle spot, but he'll shut run lanes and he'll shut scramble lanes quick and in a hurry. He's found kind of his spot there at Oregon and gotten a lot better. So something to pay attention to there. I think that's something we do definitely want to highlight, right? Here's the kind of the two guys I was talking about, Uiagalelei and Betcher. I just want to see what Iowa's plan is for this defense and to attack them, because it's really quick on the edges with some of these pieces of pass rushers and stout in the middle against the run. Linebackers are very sideline to sideline and quick. I want to say Indiana's defense they're really good. They're really, really good. I think they're a little more physical and strong. Physical is the wrong word because I could see Oregon fans bubbling up trying to think about this. This Oregon defense is, I think, of a more of a speed type, where I felt Indiana was more stout and brute in that way. Don't take that as a knock. Just the two ways I see the defenses. Both of them are elite. Oregon can get physical with just about anybody in the country to that level. Some of the best of the best. It's just the differences. I think they're a little more quick in the secondary and in the linebacker room than what Indiana is. And I think Indiana is just a little more physical in some spots. And not that Oregon won't get physical with you and can't. It's just they are very good at getting guys in space and making tackles in the open field and fly sideline to sideline, just about as good as any unit in the country. So going to be an absolute battle for Iowa to move the football here, but you're going to have to convert on third downs. You're going to have to find a way to stay on the football field and get your defense rested. Running the football is a big deal. If we can convert third downs with short passes and catch the football, no drops, hit the sticks. That's been really good for Iowa in the last couple of weeks, is just hitting guys at the sticks and taking a first down where it can get you, not necessarily taking the top off, but having RVC back doesn't necessarily hurt anything, right? That's nice to have. So I do want to say, what Oregon can do to you can disrupt anything Iowa wants to do, but I feel like Iowa's offensive line in the run game is up there with some of the best of the country. And so they're in for a task. Both sides are in for a complete task here. So pay attention to that, lock into that. And before we kind of go into my predictions and everything, I kind of reached out to some of my Iowa brethren out there and wanted to get their thoughts on everything. Special teams got to be really good. Iowa has had one of the, not as great. They've had a couple punts blocked, missed some field goals. One of our fans needs to see a better special teams unit here and a lot more cohesion in the punt game, being a little more consistent on where we're pinning guys deep, hitting field goals when, we're within 40 yards. Maybe there's a way we can get Weechin in space in the kick game and the punt game. I imagine Oregon's going to try to keep that out of his hands to the fullest extent. Got to establish the run, another one said. It's going to go under the total, guarantee that, he said, Iowa secondary, can be average sometimes. They'll stay in the game. If they can be good as they've been with Deshaun Lee and TJ Hall and then Wampa over the top and Lutmer, that is a big deal because that can slow down Oregon's, high flying pass attack. So I just want to pay, kind of some thoughts there and what everybody was thinking. So before I go into my prediction here, Thank you guys again for joining in. I do appreciate it. Hit the like button, subscribe to our channel. Thank you guys. I know this is a little bit longer of a video, but I'm amped up for this. I just wanted to talk about it, just being completely open and honest with you. So thank you guys for joining. Time for a prediction. Time for a prediction. I just want to say I've only lost one. The only game I've lost this year. I was 6-2. I am 7-1 on picks. I took them to win in Ames. Didn't happen. That's haunting still to this day, just so everybody's on the same page. I'm going to take Oregon here. Couple reasons. And I would love nothing more in this world than Iowa to win this football game Saturday, set up another big one in Los Angeles the week after with a playoff host still on the line. I think there's something here that can't quite be, forgotten about. I think that the Gronowski's misses in open pass game or open schemes and open receivers is going to bite us here, because there have been open guys, whether it's in the end zone, at the sticks, over the middle of the field, in just about every game we've played, where it's just flat missed. And I think that's going to get us again here, because we're going to have to, convert and stay within this thing. And it's not going to be, available. I think that's something he's got to get better at. And Dante Moore is going to make a couple plays with his legs to, sustain drives. I don't think Oregon's going to run for 200 on us or 150, but they have good enough receivers to respect it and start throwing it a little bit to take, to make the run game easier. It's an extension of the run game in that case. Maybe they just get the ball out into the flats and into some speedy guys' hands, and now the run game's open a little bit more because Iowa's more spread out. That's just a possibility of everything too. So want to just say, I want this one bad. This is going to be a ton of fun. Kinnick's going to be a nut house. It's going to be one of the best atmospheres in college football to this season. I want this one really, really bad. I'm going to take Oregon in this one, and I hope I'm wrong. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for coming to the Play the Fight Song YouTube channel or listening to us on Apple or Spotify. Going to be a ton of fun. Kinnick's going to be a ton of fun. I appreciate all of you. Follow, like, subscribe, come back again, as we will have more. Every single week I'm here doing Iowa fan perspectives in a live show, 6 or 7:30, Central, on our YouTube channel to preview the games across the country. Thank you. I appreciate it. If you're in Kinnick on Saturday, be loud as hell. Be kind to the Oregon fans. Throw them a Busch Light. Most importantly, go Hawks.